Zoom in a bit more. Oh, that's nice. That takes up the whole screen. I like that. So anyway, I've been painting me Warhammers. I've been a good boy. I'm painting my Warhammers before buying new. Kind of. It's like every hour I spend painting Warhammer, I get to buy one model. I think that's how it works.
No.
The wife does not agree with that. And big models count for extras, like, obviously. You know, if I paint... Oop. Camera. If I paint this guy, he's big, so if I fully paint him, then I get to buy, like, another 3 models.
That is factually incorrect.
Up to equal size.
No.
This is cool. I love this guy. He's my Screamer Killer. He's nowhere near finished yet, but he's so big. I was also told that you're meant to put ball bearings inside of them to, like... When you have the big ones, because they're hollow on the inside, you want to give them more weight, so you put ball bearings in them. No one told me you meant to glue the ball bearings down, so now I've got a big Tyranid rattle. But anyway, I've been painting my Tyranids. I've been playing Space Marine 2, and I've been killing Tyranids. And I've been thinking about Tyranids. I got bugs on the brain, and I realized I love some, and I hate others. So I want to lay down the law. I want to let people know what are the good bugs and what are the bad bugs. Hey, welcome in, Des. Thank you for jumping in. So let's kick it off. And I've loaded in photos of all the Tyranids, everything from the current 10th edition codex. This is everything you can play in 10th edition. So it's missing a couple older Forge World stuff that's now been left out of the game. But it's updated all the way to the new Kill Team box, which hasn't even come out in Australia yet. You know, that's still on pre-order. So, kick it off with the Winged Hive Tyrant. This was the coolest shit. When I first got into 40k, and I was playing Tyranids, and I was a wee little ankle biter, there wasn't even a model for this. There may have been a Forge World model, but, like, I didn't even know Forge World was a thing then. Let's get back to... is it Tyranids in Space Hulk? Yes, it is. Generally, the Gene Stealers are who you're fighting, which are a strain of Tyranid. But now there is a Winged Hive Tyrant model. And as far as, like, army leaders go, I think it is one of the best. This thing is just so fucking cool, with its massive bat wings, these big, like, guns that have tubes and sacks of living fluids they spray over people, these big talon foot, and just, yeah, the silence, the sheer terror of this landing on your tank or something, is enough to brown the pants. And because it didn't have an official model for so long, people got really creative with making their own. And that's what you had to do back then. This is the official Forge World one with these stupidly large wings. But yeah, you know, you had to use the Demon Prince kit for wings. Or, like, you had to go buy, you know, Mega Bloks dragons and get their wings off those. So, starting off strong, I think the Winged Hive Tyrant is S tier. I reckon that is one of the coolest models. Moving on to the Venom Thropes. I don't get why these are a thing. They're part of the Neurothrope, like, Zoanthrope family of Tyranids. And I normally love those. When we get to those, you'll see that they're probably going to be up there high. But, like, those ones are big psychic bugs with big brains. And then randomly they've got one which just has big tentacles and stings people. It's basically a jellyfish. It's a big slithering jellyfish. It's apparently got gas-filled bladders and emits odors out of its little chimneys. I don't reckon. I don't think they're F tier. Do I think they're F tier? I don't think they're F tier. You know what? I take it back. They're F tier. So now we've got some nice brackets here. I love the Wing Hive Tyrant, and I hate the Venom Throat. I didn't sort this list, by the way. I just uploaded all the pictures, and it did whatever sortation it wanted. It doesn't appear to be of any order in particular. So we're just going to roll with it. Next up, we got the Tyrant Guard. I don't think I've ever seen anyone play Tyrant Guard in an army. They're these, like, big, tanky... It almost looks like a gorilla. It's like a silverback gorilla with a set of scythes. And they've got these, like, really dumb... I get they're meant to stand in front of your HQ and be like a living shield, but these big, ugly pauldron wing things, I think are the goofiest fucking thing. Every time I look at these, they just look dumb as fuck. F tier. The Tyrannifex. Tyrannifex is cool because it's got a big gun, and big guns are always cool. It also carries its big gun. Let's see where it is. It might actually be under the big Tyranids, because that's the medium-sized one. Yeah, it's under the big boys. I quite like this model. It's got this big, like, ugly hatchback. One of the cool things about the Tyranids is they're all insectoids. They all have 6 legs. That's part of their design. So this one's got big hind legs, a big, like, stabilizing foreleg, and then 2 holding a big gun. It's also got these really cool, like, missile pod things on its back. Obviously they have, like, all living weaponry, so to have these big missile pods that just, like, fire spines. I think it's up there. Oh! Thank you so much. What's... Oh, my sub goal. But it doesn't have a new sub. Thank you to whoever subscribed. I don't know why Twitch isn't telling me that someone subscribed. Hey, there it comes. Came in afterwards. Thank you so much, Insurgent. Kiz, appreciate it. 3 months. He's been supporting me for 3 months, and the other 30-something years. Tyrannifex, A tier. Big bug, big gun. A lot of detail. And similarly, the Trigon. Another big bug. Which is surely under the monstrous creatures. Yes, they're sorted alphabetically. I don't know why I'm struggling to find them. This thing is just, like, quintessential Tyranid horror. Yeah, it's one of the things that when you think the Tyranids and you think of their big bad monsters, it's this giant burrowing nightmare. Going all the way back to, you know, when the Red Terror was a hero monster you could get. It's not in there anymore. But the idea of this thing bursting out of the ground and just eating entire infantry whole. Bloody nepotism, I'm not a Neopet. Yeah, he doesn't have a Napoleon complex. There is definitely 3 flavors, though. The Trigon is actually an S-tier Tyranid. It is just like the quintessential, yeah, the Red Terror model brought into the modern landscape. One of those things of, like, that bursting out of the ground and just eating your squad leader would make you add additional camouflage splotches to your pants, to say it mildly. Moving on, the Toxicrene. See, this is why I wasn't sure if I wanted to put Venom Throats at F, because everything I hate about the Venom Throats, I also hate about the Toxicrene, plus it looks dumber. In the art, it looks kind of cool, you know, you got this giant thing, like, flipping a tank and pulling apart people. Oh no, it's pulling the gun off the tank. But there's just... The model is just, what the fuck is going on here? You got this, like, big bulbous... I don't know how to describe this shape. It's got these small hind legs, these big front legs, and all the weight is sitting on like the back of the neck. Toxicrene playing in the bendy. Yeah, it's that Geelong band. It's got these big stinging tentacles again. I don't like tentacles on Tyranids. Tyranids are bugs, alright. Bugs don't have tentacles. And I'm sure someone will try and correct me, but like, I don't believe in tentacles on bugs. It's also got the big brain, and it's like, why do you have the big brain? You're not psychic, you're poison. And then it's got the mouth feeders, and there's just too much going on in this model. I hate the shape of it. It's ugly. F tier. Ugly F tier model. The Swarm Ward. Which may not be under the monstrous. Ooh, actually, the Hive Tyrant is. Swarm Ward. Nope. Here we go. Tentacles only belong in adult cartoons. Exactly. So Swarmboard is insanely cool. It just has a bunch of swords. It's got a sword for a head. It has 5 swords. It has 4 arms and 5 swords. Just the idea of this giant bug blender ripping its way through your infantry, or even like fighting your larger models like your dreadnoughts and stuff, and just hacking it to pieces. Very cool. It's a little bit ridiculous. Like, it feels a bit silly to have a giant bug with 4 swords. Especially because, like, when you look at the other Tyranid weapons, they're built into it. Even the guns, like, they're not holding it, it's kind of, their hand becomes a gun. And the swords are, like, something that he's actually holding. It is, like, grown into him as well. You got, like, the little pipe tubes there with the venom sacs. But, it's a bit silly. And because it's silly, it only gets A tier. Now, the Turvigon's a weird one, because I never know exactly how I feel about it. I believe it uses the same base model as the Tyrannifex. But, it has this... It's got a sack, and the sack has Tyranids coming out. It's almost like a hatcher. It hatches new Tyranids on the battlefield. Which is kind of cool, but also... We're gonna see that they have, like, a drop pod type thing. Like, the lore is that the Tyranids are formed in the big spaceships, and then they get drop podded down in these big fleshy sacks and start attacking. Like, they're not meant to be laid on the planet. Tyranids don't get laid, okay? It's still got, like, the big cannon spikes and stuff. Yeah, it's a living incubator. I don't get it. It's not dumb, I don't hate it, and the model's cool because it has a literal, like, Hormigón bursting out of it. I'm gonna give it C. Now, the Sporocyte's a weird one for Tyranids as well, because there's, like, a little bit of a lore. A mistake, almost, or, like, an inconsistency where they can't decide what something's doing. Because their drop pods do one of 2 things. They either hit the ground and they become these living bases, or they hit the ground and they, like, deposit their load, and then they fly back up and become, like, hot air balloon. And I wish they'd just do one or the other. I feel like this was just here to give the Tyranids a terrain piece. And the Tyranids don't need a terrain piece. The Tyranids don't need to fortify. They are not a defensive army. They literally move from planet to planet and just assault. So, I don't know why they would have a defensive structure. But it does look cool. I don't hate the model. So, it's gonna get a C tier. The Ripper Swarm. The great waves, a sea of little chompy mouths. The little angry seamen. Ripper Swarm's a good name for a band. I think it's really cool, just like your typical cannon fodder little... Yeah, it's just a swarm. I like this model the most because it is like a whole swarm, but like when they say swarm and it's just 4 little guys, I'm like, well, 4 guys isn't a swarm. I also like the 1995 model there. That have these like lamprey mouths. And they look a bit more like caterpillar-y. The one thing I do hate about Rippers is how they move, because like I said, all Tyranids have 6 legs, and you can see the little legs on the side there. But they slither. They slither like... I don't know what this is meant to be. And they should crawl. But they're very just run-of-the-mill model. B tier. They're not amazing, they're not shit, they are one of your most standard models. B tier. Old One Eye. When I was, I don't know, like 10 or whatever, when I first picked up my first codex, and I opened it up, and I'm like, I'm gonna play Tyranids, I want to play the evil bugs. And I saw this, I was sold. I was sold on the hobby for a lifetime. This giant monstrosity with these huge claws and this big empty eye socket. And like, it's had bits shot off because someone shot in the face and it just keeps coming back. It was instant love. I don't care much for the new model. Because they just like made it part of the standard Carnifex models. They still gave it like the missing faceplate, like it's been shot in the head. But I think the classic 3rd edition model, I've got 2 of these. They are so cool. The barnacles growing on it, like it really shows the age of it. The scarring on the carapace shell there. S tier. This is the type of model that just makes you love a hobby forever. The Neurotyrant is one of the newer models. We're getting into the new edition now. In the new Leviathan box set. Obviously, if you follow the Warhammer lore, everything's getting more psychic. As chaos comes into the world more and more, things are getting more and more psychic. Including the Tyranids. So, they've now got these big bugs with big brains that even have little smaller brains that float around, the little neuraloids, which I think are really cute. If I had to have a pet Tyranid, neuraloids are up there. I'd have one of these or something else that I'm going to get to later. I know what I said about tentacles earlier, that I don't like them on my Tyranids. But just like the crown of this and everything, this is a cool like centerpiece for your army. I really like the Neurotyrant. I think it's an A tier model, especially with the little guys that float with it. It's just, yeah, the biggest, baddest brain. The mucoid spore is a weird one, because this is part of the... There we go. This is part of the kit that comes with their version of the drop pod. So you can either build it as the fully assembled drop pod, or you can build the base, and with the leftover bits, you get the mucoid spore. It's just a big spore that explodes. It's a spore mine, but bigger. Says it's air defense, so it just kind of floats around and hopes a plane hits it and blows up. It's literally made from leftover bits. F tier. It's just a big spore mine. The hyper-adapted Raveners. The new model that I am waiting for in the mail. So these are on top of the base model of the Raveners. These are specialist ones that have adapted. And check them out. They got poison going to their blades. This one's got a big crest to show his leader. This one has antenna, because he's got more sensitive things. I don't know how I feel about antennas. This one's got a big venom sac, and his face has all these holes in it. This one's got a wrecking ball, and he just smashes through stuff. I quite like him. I quite like the hyper-adapted Raveners. I'm gonna give him... B tier. They're yet to grow on me because they are the latest one. I don't have any nostalgia for them. I haven't seen if I'm gonna win a lot of games with them or lose a lot of games with them. So I guess we'll find out in time how much I care about them. The Hive Chrome. We're getting the big flappy ones now. Hive Chrome has got this really cool gun. One of my favorite models, do I have him here? I thought I did. Is the classic Obliterator. The first Obliterator model. There's no way it's going to focus on that. Where he's got the giant gun growing out of his mouth, and I just love the body horror of having a giant gun growing out of your mouth. And the Hive Crone is exactly that. It's a giant bat with a giant gun growing out of its mouth. And its legs are wrapped around these big venom sacs that, like, it fires its gun literally by squeezing the sacs. And it's called a dribble cannon, I believe? Drill cannon. Because it doesn't really, like... It's air-to-ground assault, so it just drills venom and acid over models as it flies over. It can also carry these little guys that disconnect and cling to enemy ships. I quite like the Hive Chrome. It's pretty cool. One thing I don't like about it, though, is that it says that it's air combat, but it doesn't look in any way, shape, or form, except for those little tentacle guys. It doesn't look like it's made for air-to-air combat. It's made for air-to-ground. So because of that, I'm gonna give it a B tier. It's really cool, but it doesn't seem to do the thing that it's meant to do. The Exocrine. Big gun bug. One of the biggest gun bugs. One of the things I love about this, actually two things I love about this. A, it shows that, like, the guns on Tyranids are, like, another life form that symbiotically attaches itself to the main Tyranid. And you can see that on here really well, because it's got its own set of eyes. The gun is its own creature, and the host is this. And it's got its own set of eyes. And they impact each other, and because of the head size on this, it just looks like this thing has attached to it and just pumped it with growth hormones. It looks horrific to have this head on this unnaturally large body. Like, this is truly the victim here of this. It's that Ingham chicken pumped full of hormones. There's also the original Exocrine model for very old people. Which looks a bit more silly. I quite like the Exocrine. I'm gonna give it B tier. It's not my favorite model, but I think it does what it does better than others. The Hierophant Bio-Titan. The big, big, big bug. We're talking Titans now. And just to, like, get the right idea of scale, because, like, the model's big, but you don't really notice it until you're looking at, like, how this thing shapes up against Space Marines. This is a Titan-sized monster. And I don't know what I expect for a Tyranid Titan, but this is underwhelming for me. Like, it's cool. I don't mind the shape, where it's got this big arch back, absolutely covered in those, like, missile spores that we saw on other models. And these two huge guns down at ground level where you'd want to, like, shoot things. But I don't know, I compare this to other armies Titan creatures, you know, like the Titans, the Warhound and stuff. Or the Orcs with their big stompers, and the Morkanauts and Gorkanauts. And I just feel we've got maybe the lamest Titan. Eldar's kind of, it's just a big Rave Knight, but I'm gonna give it a B tier. Gargoyles are the flying troop choice. Your most basic troop choice, but with wings. All the way down. All the way down. They're just bats with guns. The model's kind of cool, but if you've ever had to build these, you will understand why I'm putting them in the C tier. Shit model to build. Bland model. Raveners, we already put Raveners in B for the hyper-adapted. I don't think the original Raveners are any better. They're just kind of a smaller version of the Trigon, they're like the baby version. They're definitely cool. I think they're, especially when you, like, go back to that, the origin of StarCraft, I think the Raveners are pretty iconic because of what they became in the Zerg. Big slithery boys, big arms, evil snake, burst out of the ground, kill you. They're pretty cool. Broodlord. Here's where I get on my rant. This is me in my truck talking to my iPhone. I don't like the Gene Stealers, alright? I like everything about the Gene Stealers except that they're Tyranids. I like the idea of this, like, alien creature that infects a population and, like, takes generations to overtake them, and then eventually leads in an uprising to overthrow the existing species or planetary government or whatever. But then their end game is like, yep, cool, so we do this thing that takes, like, generations to succeed, and then we summon the Hive Fleet and all these guys come and they eat the planet, and that's the end of it. Those things feel disconnected. It's here's one alien species who's, like, planned to overthrow a planet, takes generations, and here's another one that plans to come there and eat everything immediately. They're disconnected. So, I don't like them as Tyranids. I wish they were their own thing. The Maleceptor is everything I said about the Toxicrene, but it's, instead of a toxic thing, it's a psychic thing. And we already have big psychic creatures. So I have absolutely no fucking idea what the Maleceptor is meant to be, what it's meant to do. A highly psychic organism. You already have the Neurothropes and the Zoanthropes, and now you've got the Neurotyrant. It's just a walking version of those. I don't like it. F tier. Fuck the Maleceptor. But Zoanthropes, now we're talking. Because, like, also the Maleceptor is a big brain on this big body, and that it just has no character. What I love about the Zoanthrope is that it is so reliant on its psychic ability, its body has withered. It is a big brain on this tiny, withered body with arms that barely protrude. They've almost withered, because it just floats itself around. So the only thing it really needs is its shell to protect its brain, and its brain. I think they're really cool. I don't really like, psychic phases are always a more complicated thing, so I probably won't run them. But I do have even one right here, a little metal mini that I've stripped. So I think they're really cool. I don't think they're S tier. They're not that iconic. But A tier. Definitely A tier. The Tyrannicide is their drop pod. This is what I've been talking about a couple times already. Tyrannicide. So when the ships are in orbit, they throw down these sacks of Tyranids that hit the ground and just disgorge their living, their living cargo. And as they're about to hit the ground, these flaps fold out and form like an air brake. And then, yeah, sometimes apparently they stay on the ground and become a base. I think that's lame. The other version is they reinflate with like natural gases and become this hot air balloon with these guns on top of it to kind of drift around and shoot down things. I like that version better. I think as far as troop transports go and like how they get to the planet in the lore, I quite like the Tyrannicide. And I like this having tentacles because it's not a monster on its own, really. It's a big empty sack. So the big sack, at the end of the day, it is just a transport option. As much as I love it, I can only give it B tier. The Carnifex, when we're talking about Tyranids that are just iconic, you gotta give it to the Carnifex. Look how many different versions of Carnifexes there are. That's how important the Carnifex is. This big monster, it kills tanks, it kills dreadnoughts. It can have claws, it can have big guns. It used to look this silly. And now it looks this cool. The Screamer Killer. Yeah. This is the Tyranid version of Dreadnought, and I don't need to tell people how much I love Dreadnoughts. Comes in all shapes and sizes. It's A tier. The Haruspex. I believe this one also uses the this uses the Exocrine base, not the Tyrannifex base. Tyranids have some of the worst names. I gotta. Oh, fuck. How do I spell this? Haruspex. The art's kind of cool. Like, you get the idea of what it's meant to do. Just meant to eat things. The original Forge World, armor cast model is one of the dumbest looking things ever. But I don't much like the other model as well. This whole like explosion of pink mouth and big grabby claw. Again, it's like, this thing's just meant to go around and eat people. We already have big monsters that go around and eat people. We got the Trigon. The Trigon's got a big mouth version. It's called the Morlock. I don't know what the Haruspex is meant to do. Also, like, the way Tyranid's meant to work is they come to the planet, and they kill everything, and then there's like another wave of things like the Rippers that eat everything and digest it, and then they bring all that bio matter back to the hive ship, and they use that to create new Tyranids and to fuel them. Like, eating is their whole thing. All they do is eat. So to have this army where the whole idea of the army is eating things, and then being a monster whose only gimmick is eating things, and doesn't do cool things like digging through the ground like the Trigon does. Sorry, Haruspex. You go down there with the Maleceptor. You go there with the why do you even exist, huh? What are you doing? You look ugly. You got no purpose. Everything I said about Tyrant Guard before also goes for the Hive Guard. They are also F tier. They look dumb. They look like these weird centaur things. Kind of reminds me of like when the Zotes, who used to be a Tyranid monster and now they're not. They've got the ugliest looking guns, so it's this like dumb harpoon launcher thing. They've got this weird shell, weird shape. I don't like the Hive Guard at all. Ugly model. Now the Harpies. The reason I gave Hive Crone B tier is because I want to give the Harpy an A tier. It is very similar to the Hive Crone, but instead of a big gun in its mouth, it can use its mouth. It has two big guns. And it flies. And just imagine seeing this thing flying overhead. It's absolutely huge. It's like the size of an aeroplane. And it's got two big guns and it just starts lighting up everything around you. This is the strafing bomber. Big pew pew. And I can imagine this shooting something in front of it too. This seems like the air-to-air combat, but also air-to-ground. I think the Harpy's really cool. I don't always love these like sticky out bits, but for a flying monster, an aerodynamic flying monster, I'll give it a pass this time. Harpy, A tier. Kinda the quintessential air monster, if you will. The Screamer Killer. I've already got mine out a couple times. It is... I mean, it was a Carnifex, but now it's become its own thing. It's still considered like a Carnifex, but it's got its own unique model. It was the face of the new version. Look at it like ripping in. It does two things. It screams and it kills. And it's got 4 big hooks to hold you down while it screams at you and kills you. It used to look goofy. Then it kind of looked mid. And now it's had a glow up. It's got male pattern boldness. I can relate. It's literally me. S tier. The Screamer Killer is S tier. The Winged Prime. The fact that we got the Screamer Killer and the Winged Prime in the same box is just an insult to the Screamer Killer. Is it going to come up if I search for Winged Prime? It might be under... what's their other name? Shrikes. So they're a Tyranid warrior, but they've got wings. And the Tyranid warrior shouldn't have wings. Winged Prime Tyranid. Because looking at that one there, where the wings are on top and the guns on the bottom, it looks dumb. It looks clunky. It doesn't look natural. But then you see the Winged Tyranid Prime, where the arms are on top and the wings are at the bottom, and it also looks dumb. Like, these models were just not designed to have wings. Yeah. It's F tier. It is literally just your cheap leader, if you need the cheapest possible leader. Now, I said before the Haruspecs, that's F tier for having no reason to this. The Psychophage is kind of cool. Because it's very, very similar. But it's a big tentacly mouth that pulls things in and eats them, but it specifically eats Psychers. And then spreads this ash, which damages other Psychers. So it's got a purpose. It's evolved with a purpose. It's got a really cool mouth. I like it when they model the smoke, if it's meant to, like, breathe out smoke. I think the Psychophage is what the Haruspecs should have been. It's really cool. Again, it's kind of new. I don't know if it's grown on me that much. I'm gonna put it in the B tier. The Neurogaunt. The Neurogaunts should be C tier. They are a worse version of the Hormigaunt. But I mentioned before when I was talking about the Neuraloids that if I could have... See, the Neurogaunt's pretty cute. I want to pet one of those. But more than that, I want a Neurogaunt as a pet. Look at, they're like the little dogs of the Tyranids. They're little baby gaunts. They don't have any guns or anything, but they don't have their big blades yet too. They're kinda cute. I'd want a pet Neurogaunt. They should be C tier, but they cute their way into a B tier. Von Ryan's Leapers. This was a weird one when they announced it, because everyone saw what it was and they're like, oh cool, it's a new Lictor. It looks kind of small, but like, maybe they're not scale creeping the Lictor, maybe they're, you know, just moving it down to be a smaller creature. But no, they gave us baby Lictors and made him a pack hunter. You got like this predatory solo killer, and then they're like, nah, there's also small versions that like don't turn invisible and also hunt in packs. And because of that, I kind of don't love them. Like, it's a cool model, but it's really just a smaller version of the Lictor. And the Lictor already exists and didn't need a smaller version. So I'm gonna put in C tier. It doesn't suck, but it's just a lesser version of something that already exists. Hormigaunts are, for me... I know there's two types of gaunts, your main ones. You got the shooty ones and the stabby ones. Your Termagaunts and your Hormigaunts. The Hormigaunts with the blades for arms are Tyranids. Before anything else comes to mind, if I think Tyranids, if I had to draw a Tyranid, I'd draw a Hormigaunt. They are just your basic troop choice, but like, they're just so iconic. And my favorite view of the Tyranids is this mental image of this swarm running at you with blades for hands. They're not coming to shoot you, they're not going to take a strategic position, they are going to rush at you in the thousands, and it doesn't matter if you shoot the first 100, the next 100 are going to get to you and they're going to cut you to pieces with these giant scythe hands. And that's the unstoppable wave, the chitinous tide that I imagined the Tyranids at. So I gotta give him S tier. It's just so exactly what I think of when I think Tyranids. The Neurolictor is kinda cool. You know, with the way the law is going, where everything's becoming more psychic, you know, you're getting a psychic Lictor. The fan base got a bit weird when this model came out, because it's doing that like little turn with one leg up. They weirdly sexualized this model, and I thought that was kind of odd. A lot of them painted it in thigh highs, which is really fucking weird. Don't do that. Alright? Don't try and fuck the bug. Again, it's just kind of... It's cooler than the Von Ryan Leapers. And the idea, it kind of makes more sense that it can turn itself invisible if it's got psychic powers. But I'm gonna give it B. It's slightly cooler than Von Ryan Leapers, but it's still not better than just the Lictor. Speaking of which, the Lictor. If you like Predator, as in Alien vs Predator, this is that, but just a bug. I used to think the giant, like, overhead arms are kind of cool. Well, kind of lame at first, but now I think they're kind of cool that they, like, yeah, extend out. They're really... And, you know, they can use them to launch themselves forward, pull themselves up. The ambush predator, the solo hunter. This is what I imagine is your true vanguard of the Hive Fleet. Kind of before the aliens land, you've got these invisible creeping around, scouting you out, picking off key targets. I really love the Lictor. The Lictor is A tier to me. So we got the Lictor, the lesser cool Lictor, and the dumb baby Lictors. There's also Death Leaper, who is the special Lictor. There's not many Tyranid characters because they're not really meant to have characters, but Death Leaper is one of them. And he started off as just like a big Lictor. He's got bigger arms, and then they gave him this new model, and the new model has a cape, and it's like, why does a bug have a cape? It's meant to help him glide and stuff, but really they just made him look like a fucking villain with a big coat on. I feel like they weren't cooking with this. They thought they were cooking, but they weren't cooking. I'm gonna put it down with the Neurolictor. I think nothing beats just the main Lictor. This, perfect. This, overcooked. This, why did you add this ingredient? This, undercooked. Welcome in, Jordy. Congratulations on being first. I already said my piece on Gene Stealers. They can go with the Brood Ward. I do not like Gene Stealers. I love Gene Stealers. I do not like Gene Stealers as Tyranids. Termagants. They are also the iconic basic troop choice, but the Hormigaunt, as I've already said, is that's my Tyranid. I voted for the Hormigaunt. Alright. This is not my Tyranid. It's cool, it's got the living gun, it's your main troop choice, pew pew. Gotta just give it C tier, it's the most basic Tyranid there is, really. The Pyrovore is the lesser version of the Exocrine. I don't particularly care for it. Where is it? Here it is. The model's cool. I don't hate the model. I think I actually liked the older one a bit, but this one also, like, considering it's meant to be an artillery piece, it's kind of shielded. But it's just a big flamethrower bug. B? Maybe? Maybe C. I just don't know why you couldn't just give, like, the Exocrine a flamethrower option. It feels like a worse version of the Exocrine. C. It's been done. Big Gun Tyranid's been done. It's like the worst version, the better version, the best version. The Biovore, despite being almost identical, I like a lot more because the Biovore is a mortar, and we haven't had like a mortar yet. And it launches these spore mines, so it literally shoots these poisonous balloons all over the battlefield that drift around, and if you hit one, it pops, and it's very bad for you. I do like the older models where the cannon's more rotated, like a mortar should be. But the new model is also pretty cool because it's got that, like, defensive structure around it. It does look more like an artillery piece that you kind of bunk it in. And yeah, I just love the idea of this thing that just shoots. It's also got the big sack that's filled with these spore mines. And again, where the guns are a separate entity to the actual thing, you can actually see the legs connecting it. It's like, this is one bug, this is the big parasitic gun. And I like that they paint them different colors to kind of reflect that. They're not amazing, they're not iconic, but they also don't suck. I'm going to put them in the B tier. B for Biovore. The Norn Assimilator. This is one of the new ones. We got big things. We got like a knight equivalent model. Yeah, we're talking about the Norn Assimilator, but we'll also see the Norn Emissary coming up. This is where I get a bit of an unpopular opinion, maybe. I get that Tyranids are meant to be bugs. General rule, and I know I've already broken it a couple times, I don't like when they give them antenna. It just looks weird. They haven't done it on all of them. They haven't really done it heaps in the history of the army. And this gun's got kind of like smaller things. I don't particularly care for the Norn Assimilator. yeah, it's just for destroying particular foes. Considering this is meant to be like the giant fucking rally, this is your like breaking over fortified buildings and stuff. I don't like it. I feel like the concept is not fully realized, and it's cool that it's big, but it's just not. It's just not cool enough. But doing it right is the Norn Emissary. This thing is a fucking kaiju and a half. It just has the better scale. The arms are big. The head is big. It's got psychic power and might. This is your monster. This is your kaiju. This is your army centerpiece that everyone, like, when you put this out, people go, oh fuck, they haven't seen the rule set for it. They don't know what it does, but they're like, that thing's probably gonna wreck my shit no matter what I throw at it, unless I throw something of equal size at it. So I think the Norn Emissary is doing it right. I'm gonna put an A tier. I think it's awesome. We're getting close to the end here. The Harridan. This is another Titanic-sized one. Hey, that's my history. You don't want to see that. Control F, Harridan. What I do like with the Harridan is that it carries gargoyles, because gargoyles, you know, they're for skirmish fights. They only fly short distances. How do they get to the battle? They clutch onto the bottom of the Harridan, which is your long distance flyer. So literally, it brings the brood with them. I used to think that was all it did, and it just had kind of big talons for self-defense. I only just realized it's got these big guns with like the little venom sacs on the tips of its wings. I think that's really cool that it's got the guns on the tips of its wings. And yeah, there's the size comparison. So this is a big bat. Other than that, it's just a big flying monster with big flying guns. These claws that look like it would rip a tank open. Its wingspan is 40 meters. The length of its scythes there are 6 meters. You know, it's 30 meters long. This thing is terrible. I'm going to give it A tier. Because if that flew over my house and blocked out the sun, I would brown pant. The Morlock. The Morlock is the same kit as the Trigon, which already got given S tier. And this is the Eater. Now, it's covered in antenna, which I've already said. I get it, it's meant to be like... It's meant to sense things, it burrows underground. It's got these smaller legs and these smaller claws. Like, this thing's entire purpose is bursting out and eating things with its distendable jaw. But ultimately, I just don't think it looks as cool as the Trigon. I think the arm size has a lot to do with it, where like this has the really big arms coming out of it, and this has these like little gimpy arms because it's more about the mouth. But I think it just kind of looks goofy because of that. I would almost want them to have different kits, and I'd want this to be more like a shy horde, like a thick worm that bursts out of the ground and eats things, rather than the shape that it has. So, yeah, much like the Norn Assimilator was the Norn Emissary done wrong, this is the Trigon done wrong. The Warriors are another just iconic Tyranid model. And boy howdy have they had a glow up. These are your foot soldiers, your kind of space marine, a little bit bigger, but look how dumb and goofy these things used to look. And now they look cool. Almost most comparable to like your xenomorph type thing, but with these big guns. I love the big gun. The venom cannon is just so ridiculously oversized to give that heavy weapons feel. again, one of the most iconic Tyranid models there is, the Warrior. For me, not as iconic as the Hormigaunt, but I love Warriors. The fact they have so many ways you can build them, I want to get a million Warriors and build them in every single which way. I love the Tyranid Warrior. The Tyranid Warrior is awesome. The Parasite of Mortex is a very conceptually cool Tyranid, and I hate the execution. Because, and again, like I said with the Gene Stealers, their plan is a slow generational overtake. This is a Tyranid, a flying Tyranid, with an ovipositor. For those who don't know what that is, it's a parasitic egg layer. So that thing comes by and it stings you, and it lays eggs in you, and then it flies away. Which, in its own bubble, is very cool, because it's based on parasitic wasps. But again, that is a slow plan. Tyranids aren't meant to have slow plans. They're meant to come to the planet, eat everything, and leave. So the idea of this thing that like requires it laying eggs in you and then leaving you for those eggs to hatch, I don't love it. Also, these legs, these noodly appendages, I don't know if they're meant to be tentacles on the end of a limb, or like they're meant to be hooked limbs that are hard. But I hate how it looks, and it also has one of the worst modeling choices of any model. When you think of like how a bat's wings work or how a bird's wings spread out, why is the membrane outside of the bone structure? That is not how a taut membrane works. And on every fan-made model I've seen, they've corrected that. So I like the idea of an ovipositor, a parasitic egg layer, but probably not for the Tyranids, and probably not this terrible model. F tier. F tier for the Parasite of Mortex. Now, the Hive Tyrant. We've already given the Winged Hive Tyrant S tier. The Hive Tyrant itself, though, again, just iconic. Your I guess your standard army leader. It's on all the codex covers. It's a big, mean-looking motherfucker. It's got very big cannon. It's got a whip. It's got a sword. It's got a big horn. It's kind of like an evil, like a mix between the Carnifex in size and the warrior in its loadouts. I also like this model. I would love to have the second edition model. I've actually got a box for it, but just the box. Thank you to Insurgent for that box. So, yeah, the leader of your army. I'm gonna give it A tier. I still think the Winged Hive Tyrant has a wow factor in its size because those wings stick out so far. But the Hive Tyrant is definitely A tier. And lastly, the Barbed Gaunt. The newest version of the Gaunt. It's the heavy weapon version. And it's got this giant cannon that, again, is a parasitic weapon. And it's actually got multiple parasites, because the gun is its own parasite. But it's also being controlled by this another parasite that, like, sits on the back of its neck. And, like, it pushes its head down. It looks so tortured. And it's grown bigger spines and stuff. It's pretty cool. I don't think we really needed it. I don't think it's any cooler than the Termagant. It's definitely not worse, though. So I'm gonna put in C tier. Now, obviously, there's a lot of really cool stuff in here that hasn't been ranked because it's not in the current edition of the game. There's stuff that never got models. There's obviously your ships. If you play Battlefleet Gothic, they're big space Tyranids. And then you got, like, the the Titan-sized ones, which never got models, like the Dominatrix, the Nautiloid, the Viragon, the Dactylus, which has these big catapult arms. A lot of cool stuff that, hey, hopefully maybe one day they'll bring to the game. Stuff they've taken out of the game, like the Stone Crusher Carnifex, which has a bombing knocker. The Melanthrope, which is, I guess, kind of replaced by the Neurotyrant. It was the big Venom, the big version of the Neurothrope. They gave it a really gothy vibe. I don't know how, but they just made it look evil. But that's my tier list. So looking at it, S tier, the Winged Hive Tyrant, of course, the Trigon, Old One Eye, Screamer Killer, Hormigaunt. Fuck yeah. Got a box of those on the way. I've got him. I don't have a Trigon. I had one at one point, but I sold it. It was pre-painted. It wasn't the colors I wanted, so I need a Trigon. And I do have a Winged Hive Tyrant. The A tier, the Hive Tyrant, hell yeah, I've got one of those. Tyrannifex, I've got one. I do have a Swarm Lord, I'm pretty sure. Got a Neurotyrant, got some Zoanthropes. I don't have any Carnifexes that aren't Old One Eyes. I don't have a Harpy. I've got a Lictor. I don't have a Norn Emissary. They're huge and they're expensive. I don't have the Harridan because the Harridan is so expensive. Harridan 40k. That is US dollars. It is $500 US. It's so expensive. I'm never gonna own one. And then yeah, going down in the F tier is things with tentacles, things that just shouldn't exist, and Gene Stealers. I'm pretty happy with that list. Thank you for indulging me a rant about my favorite army. If you like this, I might do more. There's so many armies, I can always rant about more Warhammer. Trust me on that. Cheers to everyone who came in from my Warhammer group chat and stuff. You're the real ones. But yeah. Thank you for my Tyranid talk. My Nid talk. And I hope that you get a bunch of large bugs in your house tonight. Like really big ones. Bugs that you need to call someone else to take out of the house. I hope one crawls into your house today so that you can share in the joy. Should I get into Warhammer Kill? You're already into cars. I would not recommend being into two extremely expensive hobbies. I would stick with cars. I don't think anyone could realistically afford cars and Warhammer. Yeah, bad news, Squishafish. But it is a fun hobby. There's just so many ways to enjoy the hobby. You can play the video games, you can play the tabletop. I know people who only paint Warhammer. They never play it, they don't like playing it, but they love buying the models and painting them. I know people that buy pre-painted models, and only like playing. There's books, I've got a whole bookcase here. I know people that only like the novels. My dad only engages with the novels and doesn't touch any other part of the hobby. I know people that just enjoy buying Warhammer and never even build the fucking things. They just like swiping their credit card. Apparently that's their favorite part of the hobby. So a lot of cool ways you can get into it. But hey, speaking of getting into it, let's get into some video games. If you're only here for the Warhammer content, feel free to stick around, but also this would be the point where you fuck off. But feel free to stick around. As we get into... This is another game brought to us by the lovely people at Keymailer, keymailer.co. If you're an online creator and you want someone to give you free video game keys and you get to test them out and send them to, you know, let indie developers know what you think of their indie games, then get on Keymailer. Now, I didn't open Steam beforehand, so give me a moment while I wait for Steam to load. It's not on my SSD, so it takes a while to load it up. While I wait for Steam to load, I also have hats now. you've already seen, not this one, my logo hat. And a fair few people bought it to the point where I've been buying small batches, 4 at a time, because that's like the minimum I can order, really, without paying absolute huge amounts to buy like 1 to 3 at a time. But anyway, I've been buying 4 at a time. I've just had to place my 3rd order, so I really appreciate that I'm able to... I mean, I'm excited to sell a single hat, let alone be able to sell 12 hats. But I do have a big cartel now. If I can find the link, I need to set it up so that I have a command. I haven't. That's how deal was. I set this up literally just before stream. There we go. If you want to buy a hat, there's the link. They're $25. That's literally it cost. I don't make money off these. It's just really fucking cool to see my logo when people wear them. Couldn't be happier, really. Alrighty.